Sandwich and me going to beat your ass.
Well, we can all start introducing ourselves. Starting on the process like that.
My name is Danimal Cannon. I make music with Nintendo Game Boys, but I also play in some video game cover bands like Arm Cannon and Metroid Metal as well. So.
I am Random, also known as Megaran, former teacher, current chiptune nerdcore hip hop artist.
Basically a genius.
Basically.
I am Skrypnyk. I make a range of electronic music from ambient, soft stuff to hardcore, break beats and all that jazz. I also do a couple of video game remixes.
We got a nice wide sampling of the video game music community right
You
here.
got the full spectrum. Like,
Yeah.
This is probably a really,
The best you're gonna get.
yeah, this is the best.
Nice.
Clearly. Okay, so I guess we can all kind of shortly explain what we do, and then I'll go a little bit into my connection with what I do in the video game world. So, Danimal, what do you want to
So,
briefly explain that?
I started off covering old video game music from 8-bit systems, 16-bit systems. I would do remixes of Zelda songs and stuff like that. And in order to do that as accurately as possible, I would go and break down the source files of the actual songs in there. There were these things called NSF files that they ripped from NES games. And I would study the music and break it down channel by channel and learn each individual part so I could actually replicate it very accurately. In that process, I ended up learning a whole lot about the hardware used in the old 8-bit systems and how they actually made the sounds, how even the sound effects got made, and I don't know, just learned all about all that stuff. And then eventually, I kind of got into using those as an instrument. And so now I use a Nintendo Game Boy because I specifically like that sound. It's a bit bigger than like the NES is because it's in stereo, and it has a really fat bass channel. But I got into, I don't know, I used to need to remix old video game music because it was like this chintzy little, chintzy music. It didn't sound very big, not very grandiose at all, and I wanted to give it like the royal treatment and have it be, huge sounding. And then when I found out that the Game Boy could make music with that same aesthetic but actually still have it be huge, I really got into composing with that original music. So it's kind of how I fell into that, and it was a very progressive process, but it's worked out for me. It's a lot of fun.
Well, me, I don't know if my story is as interesting, but I started out as an educator for the last 5 years, but at the same time I was making hip-hop music as a part-time hobby. And I made more traditional hip-hop, I guess, in the beginning, very old-school based, 80s and early 90s, sampling of maybe soul and funk records, and adding lyrics on top of those and things like that. I hit like a creative wall and stepped away from making music for a while and went back to playing video games. And it was like the light bulb moment hit when I started playing old Mega Man games and got an idea to use some of the music and create a rap song around the music. And I did that with one song. It was the Woodman of Mega Man 2 for a song called Grow Up. And the song got pretty popular online, and that prompted me to create an additional 10 or 11 tracks to make an album out of it. Thank you so much. 2. All right. So, okay. Need another one?
I'm good.
All right. So that prompted me to make an album called Megaran. So at that time, I called myself Random, and not knowing that there was a chiptune artist in Sweden named Random. But
very good.
yeah, he's awesome. And so it's so funny, our Last FM page is like a flame war between our fans. It's like, I thought this was the real Random. Like, no, it is the real Random. You suck. Like they're just going at it. It's so great.
That was random.
That was random. So that led to me creating the album. In the hip hop way of thinking, we sample music a lot and try to reappropriate it, repurpose it, making new creations out of it. That's kind of what is the mark of a true or a good hip hop producer, is that you can make a record or a song sound completely different than its source material. And so, but I found myself with the Megaman music wanting to keep the the original aesthetic of the music. And so when I would sample, I would try to use a very similar variation on the song, and then add lyrics on top of it, either singing or rapping, add some drums, add synths and some new age stuff, but also keep the chiptune 8-bit sound. And so when I did that, I was definitely afraid of a lawsuit coming from Capcom. So I didn't sell the project, I put it out online, and then it kind of picked up some steam when it got on like IGN and a couple other sites started talking about it. And then I got an email from Capcom. And I talk about this during my show all the time, but in this email, the representative said, hey, we really like what you're doing. Like, don't worry, this isn't a cease and desist. We really like it. And so they invited me out to Comic-Con in San Diego. I met with a lot of the developers, and they enjoyed the music. And later on, we wound up talking about an official license. So I'm happy to say that the Megaran music that I make is officially licensed by Capcom, which is pretty awesome.
Nice.
So that led to me doing some other things and trying my luck with other game developers. Haven't quite been so lucky, but haven't been sued yet, so I'll keep so later on I did a Final Fantasy VII project called Black Materia, where we took the entire soundtrack, broke it down, and then that was my first time not using 8-bit source material. And so we took the entire soundtrack, broke it down, added some new sounds to it, and I retell the entire story of the game. So it was much of a deeper process than any of my other stuff. But that wound up doing pretty well. And fast forward a little bit, and I'm coming out to conventions and stuff like this, and I wasn't able to maintain my teaching career because I had to leave and do shows a lot. So I had to resign a year ago from educating, and so I still do some stuff in my part-time, but now I'm happy to say that music is my full-time job, which is pretty cool. And so yeah, that's me. That's me to date.
Yeah, Megaran.
Thank you.
I would say doing music as a career is the better choice anyways.
Well, it's, I've learned so much from educating that I'm so glad I did it. But and even with my music and live shows and things, I think being an educator has helped me so much with that. It's the same thing. You're standing in front of a bunch of people who have no idea what to expect from you, So it's been fun. Yes.
What did you teach?
Ah, good question. I taught language arts, which is reading, writing, and reading comprehension at the middle school level. So I did 6th, 7th, and 8th grade for about 6 years. Yes.
Personally, I'm just wondering, is it annoying you that Capcom really isn't doing anything for Mega Man's 25th anniversary?
Is it annoying me?
Yeah, because
I don't have anything bad to say about Capcom. I'm just going to start with that.
what? Someone who doesn't have anything bad.
As a fan, you have to be a little frustrated with some of the things for Mega Man that has been going on. But I mean, Mega Man 9 was awesome. Mega Man 10 was a great surprise. I'm happy about that, but being that we are in the 25th anniversary of the game and I haven't heard about anything yet, it's a little worrisome, but I think they'll figure it out. At least I hope so. I don't think I want to believe that they're not purposely taking a dump on their fans. Like, I really want to believe that. So therefore, I have to be optimistic.
Just wondering if maybe you'd be interested in talking with everyone about the Megaran language arts game that you've been doing the last little while.
Absolutely. And I really wish I had a screen to show you, but I can show you on my laptop. But we'll get to that later. Let's move.
I'm Skrypnyk, in case you forgot. My story begins, I guess, in the early 21st century.
What, you weren't
Long ago.
20XX.
Yeah. I got into this really, really underground band. I don't know if you heard about them, Daft Punk.
No, of course not.
I'm familiar.
I was downloading a whole bunch of remixes from various artists, listening to them over and over again. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool to remix something like that, throw it on the internet, and have millions of people love me around the world?
That's how it works, actually.
That's how it works.
Exactly.
Get it out there. So I was like, how does somebody remix something? How does somebody go about doing that? So over the beginning, I checking stuff out, looking around. I found out about the video game remix community, learned a lot about them, and that's kind of how it started. I started remixing video game music, learning the software programs, and then just keep working onto that. Moved from house music to break beats and hard music, soft music, all that stuff. And just kept going from there, and now I'm here. Connecting the dots.
Yep.
So a question for the three of you. What other artists do you listen to in the Nerdcore community?
I really like the stuff that the Proto-Men are doing. I like the stuff that the Megas are doing.
Proto-Man? Is that what you said?
Yeah, there's a sticker.
Sticker right on the laptop.
Oh, yeah.
I actually just went on tour with them this
They're
summer.
awesome.
But yeah. There are plenty of others that are amazing. I mean, MC Pornola does some fantastic stuff. I really like. There's a group called My Parents' Favorite Music that I like a lot.
Parents' favorite music?
I don't know. There's a group called Power Glove that's doing really good stuff. And I don't know. There's actually a lot of individual remixers and stuff like that that I'm a really big fan of. And the coolest thing is, it's a really not necessarily small, but very tight community in the video game music community. And there's people from all different, you know, styles. So like you have people. I do a lot of like metal stuff. He does, you know, hip hop stuff, and he'll do electronic stuff. But we all get together under the same banner, and there's a lot of really talented people all in the same scene. And these are the people that I'm fans of, and I get to go hang out with them and jam with them, and I call them up and ask them for, you know, guest work on my records and stuff like that. So, and the cool thing is, for the most part, all these people are pretty accessible. You can email all of them, and you can. They're not like this, you know, rock god, you know, that you like have to go through 40 people to like, you know, talk to them for a second, and then they don't give a shit. So that's one of the things I really enjoy about, you know, the video game music community and also the chiptune community. It's very tight knit but accessible and down to earth. But there's an extreme amount of talent there. There's so much talent that like I'll go and hang out with those communities a lot, and then I'll go back home and maybe go see a bunch of shows with regular bands and be like, these people are terrible. I have no idea why. Like, there's just a very large concentration of like very talented musicians in these particular scenes, but there is, and I don't know. We're spoiled, and there's seriously, if you just go and search out artists, like you'll be able to find somebody you like. Because it spans literally every genre, but it's all under like the same banner of fandom.
A quick question I'm wondering, when you do chip tunes, do you like to use the classic Game Boys like one of these?
Yes.
Or do you just use like any Game Boy you can get your hands on?
I specifically like the old ones like that, the original brick ones, because they actually have a better sound to them. They kind of skimped on the sound chips on like the later models, like the Game Boy Pocket and the Game Boy Color. Mm-hmm. And they actually sound way thinner and way less bass and stuff like that. However, that has slightly less processing power, so if I do some really complex things, like I'm doing 128th note triplets with waveform changes and stuff like that, then occasionally it'll crap out on me and die, and I might be able to do those tricks on a Game Boy Color or something like that. But for the most part, those ones are the much more sought after Game Boys, and you actually have to modify the newer ones to make them sound as good as that. So,
Interesting. I like that the special one about this one is because this one wasn't white; it was yellow.
oh yeah, no, and that's called the Play It Loud series. Actually, I'm gonna geek out for a second. But, and they came out a couple years after the gray ones, and those are just colored ones, but they have the exact same guts inside. But people like them because they're colored, and everyone wants fucking fancy toys. So, like I have two modded Game Boys that I have here, and one of them's yellow with like custom buttons and a custom backlight in it, and a sound out mod, and then the other one I have is like black with pink buttons and a custom screen cover, and I don't know, you gotta pimp your ride a little.
I would buy
Nice.
I would buy a blue one and have just red buttons.
Blue ones and white ones were only available in Japan and Europe, and so I had to pay way too much money for mine because I had this.
Yeah, eBay for me.
Or you could just like spray paint them, but
Or that.
yeah. Wow. What's up?
Have you spoken with Sabak, the developer behind Battle Kid, and currently Battle Kid?
I'm not familiar with that.
Because I think you would like him. If you ever get a chance to meet him, like he's shown me like his projects behind the music that he's done for the games, because he actually like works with the cartridges and develops on them, so he knows that hardware back and forth.
Is he doing music as well?
He has his own original music on those games, and just thought you'd get along.
I find, as an aside there, like when I'm writing music, chiptune music, there's people who make chiptune music more so in the way that he makes music. Skrypnyk is like an electronic music with kind of that 8-bit old school sound to it. And they usually call those people fake bit artists. And that you'd think that's a term of derision, but at the end of the day, people just like good music, whether it's inspired by this or that or any other thing. And so as long as it's a good song, nobody cares whether it's made on a Game Boy or if it's made on a computer using plugins and stuff like that. However, I will say, when I do work in Medium, when I do work on the actual Game Boy or something like that, there are certain limitations on the Game Boy, what you can and can't do, and they're pretty crazy. Like, if I could explain them with kind of complex musical things, but what they do is, because of those limitations, they have really distinct sounds that the Game Boy makes. And so a lot of the iconic bleeps and bloops you hear, that's specifically because of the limitations of those systems. And so I find that I would write music way differently when I work on the actual hardware and stuff like that. So I actually prefer working in the Medium, even though it's more limited.
Well, I guess you could make some sort of like, I think that has greater processing power, but also those limits in, but it would be very, very specific. Wouldn't that be easier? No?
I do very weird workarounds to bypass these limitations, and when I do that, I end up getting a kind of a different sound than I would just normally programming the notes. So you would have to like understand the workaround that I did, and then do some ass-backwards way of inputting music into your sequencer in order to achieve the same sound. And so a lot of the subtlety that I hear in chiptune music, where somebody who works in Medium might get, is usually lost when somebody has a fake bit track. So it's just it has to do with the way it's composed. Because the stuff that I do is just ass backwards on a regular sequencer. Like, no, why would anyone do that? But because of that, it gives it a lot of character to it. So
you've just got your own technique to it.
Right, and essentially, we have all these problems, things that we can't do. There's more things we can do than we can. So we have to come up with all these workarounds, and they work, but they sound weird, and they would be very odd to do it on a normal audio workstation.
Hey.
Hi, I was just wondering, this question for you, Megaran. As a rap artist, generally, I know generally you work with a bunch of lyrics and stuff like that, but what would you rather think? Would you rather someone listen to your, have you evoke emotion from the lyrics, or as the experience as a whole?
Well, being a hip-hop artist, we're totally big on lyrics. Like, that's the only thing that separates what I do from, most like video game cover bands. And I feel like I like to give a good mix. It's a tough thing that I go through, because it's I meet people and they're like, hey man, I really like what you do. You're using my favorite video game music and you're making cool lyrics. And so I don't know if it's the music, the background music that makes people, drawn to it, and then the lyrics make them stay, or if it's the other way around, or if it, I don't know. So it makes me wonder, like, what do you like? Do you like my words, or do you like the background track? So So I try to offer both up and make both appealing as possible. But I like the emotional experience. I've always been an emotional writer. I like telling my story about, you know, from coming from, you know, near poverty and being the outcast of school, or being the outcast for just for the things that you like. I like to put those into my music. So my favorite songs, and even some of my most popular songs, have been ones where I actually tell real stories and where I'm trying to, you know, just evoke some emotion. I was a poet before I was a hip-hop artist, so I learned a lot about that through that experience. So I always prefer, I think personal stuff is the best stuff. So there's a song I made called Dream Master, and people tell me all the time, like, man, that song made me cry, you know, like, because that was me, and I'm like, no, that was me, you know. I wasn't, I wasn't trying to appeal to you. I was telling you the truth, you know. So yeah, it's cool. So at the same time, I make music under the name Random that maybe doesn't have the video game backing, but still has the same, you know, emotional, lyrical content. And so I try to separate them. So there's Random and Megaran, but it doesn't work. So everyone calls me Megaran, so it's okay. So I just do it just for myself, you know. But because I enjoy music in both ways, and me and Dan were talking about this too. We should probably get into it at some point. Just the whole legality issue of just covering other people's music all the time and licensing issues and stuff like that. You know, every company isn't as cool as Capcom, you know, and so I heard the Nintendo's really cool though. I heard that they won't necessarily give you a license, but they kind of say, all right, we didn't see that.
A group that I played in called Metroid Metal, and Metroid Metal's been featured in Nintendo Power a couple times, so it's, you know, they know what's going on. They've given us some promotion, but they're also not saying, go ahead and do this, you know.
Right.
So I don't know.
It's a sneaky thing.
Yeah.
You know, because licensing things, and that's the first time I talked to Capcom about it, they're like, this could take 5 years to be realistic. It has to go through so many people. So they're like, this could take forever, you know. So I understand that. And that's probably why they don't want to start the process, because going through Japan, it would take forever.
Are you at all worried about your Final Fantasy VII project? Because Square kind of has that reputation.
Absolutely, they sure do. It's been 2 years now since I put it out, and you know, at this point, it was in PlayStation Magazine. Like, they almost have to know about it, and they haven't knocked on my door. Like, I would stop doing it in a heartbeat if they asked me, but I haven't. And you know, there's so many people who told me, like, hey man, you know, you're a shining light on them, and it's a 15-year-old game. They should be happy. I'm like, well, this is Square Enix we're talking about.
Lawyers don't care.
They don't care, you know. So at any time that had happened, I would totally shut it down, and I wouldn't even be surprised or worried or mad or anything. But luckily they haven't. But like I said, I think they have to know. Like, it got pretty big on the internet. Like, it was first page of Reddit for a while, and I still remember that day. I was like, oh my God, this thing is blowed up. I'm scared to death. So, yeah, it happened like that.
I'm just wondering if you ever have, or if you would consider maybe collaborating with Brunofloss, because you and him kind of got your start on Mega Man music.
Brunofloss is on the Black Materia album.
Oh, he is?
I'm not sure if you heard that. Yes, he plays the Don of the Slums. Don.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so me and him have also were planning some other works. So if you guys haven't heard of Brunofloss, please look him up. He's amazing.
He's very good.
Love that guy. He's a genius. And his live show, I mean, he should take that show to Vegas at some point. It's that good.
He's a born showman.
He's a natural wit. He's so amazing. But anyway, so yeah, I would love to. I mean, I know he gets super busy, and we talk about it a lot because my fans ask, his fans ask. So that was the main reason we did the one collaboration. But we have something else planned. I can't say, but it's Final Fantasy related, so it should be really cool. Yes.
I have a question about your improvising and how you freestyle.
Oh, freestyle.
Yeah, did your improvising come from natural improv, or did that just come from rap?
Yeah, that was rap stuff for the most part. Freestyling is something that I was born and raised in Philadelphia, big hip hop town, and you would go to a show, and every show outside there would be a circle of people and I'm like, hey, what's going on over there? And that was called a cipher, and people would be in that circle rapping impromptu raps, and it was like, either you jump in and be a cool kid, or you just kind of watch on the side. So it's like, let me try that, and of course it didn't work out well the first time. But I was embarrassed, but it worked out, as you know, at times it's a muscle, you know, and if you rehearse it, if you try it over and over again. I do it in the shower now. I mean, it's just something I do while I'm driving. It's just, now it's instinctive because I've been doing it for at least 10 years now. So one day I finally got the heart to do it on stage, and that was at the first Nerdapalooza event, which was in 2007. So since then I've been doing it at every show because it just works out really well. I enjoy it because it keeps me on my toes. The fans are involved, and I'm all about fan involvement. So if you're ever at any of my performances, I like to keep everybody involved. That's a teacher thing, I think. Just, you know, making sure everybody's having a good time, you know, talking to the people, keeping it very informative. So I like to do that, the freestyle thing, because it's something that, like I said, has been worked on over time, like years and years. Thank you. That's a good question. Hey.
My question's kind of like a bit more conceptual, I guess. Maybe they're all conceptual anyways. But music is like this thing, this thing of revolutions, this thing that people get together and experience very much. It's a together thing. You get together and you dance and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas video games are, you play with maybe 3 other people and that's it. That's you're limited to that. And how do you find that as... They're very different things in that sense. And how do you find it works, or maybe you can disagree with it? It's totally...
Well, nowadays with online games, I mean, you can play with the whole world. But that's true. When I started, you know, there wasn't too much of that except like Dreamcast, and I love the Dreamcast, by the way. But my favorite system. But yeah, I think it's a good point. I don't know, and that's probably the one part of Nerdcore that I feel isn't quite developed yet. There aren't a lot of good performers in Nerdcore because a lot of people don't perform live. You know, they're used to sitting at a computer and emailing or sending out, you know, rap songs that they created on their $3 microphone, or the Radio Shack mic, or
Rock Band mic.
Yeah.
the Rock Band mic, the headset mic for the Xbox Live. I mean,
It's been
people,
done.
yeah, people. I mean, it's so DIY that they, you know, they try to take that aesthetic and like, yeah, this is real nerdcore because
And then they just
I'm
use,
not
like,
spending
crap.
any money. So you're putting out crappy music.
They
And
probably
then-
just use crappy beats like GarageBand too.
Probably.
It's all about
or
the
they
blue
just
snowball.
usually just take, you know, existing beats and just rap on them. But that's, to me, and that's probably because of the video game part of it, is where you're used to playing with maybe 1 or 2 people. People don't play out because it's scary. It really is. It's scary. So there are maybe 4 to 5 nerdcore artists who actually get out, tour, travel, and those are the people who are, you know, who you see the most. The MC Lars, the MC Frontalot, MC Chris, Adam Warrock, and me. That's it, Whitey Cracker. And me. Like, honestly, and I feel like it's not a coincidence. You know, the people who work on their craft are the people who shine at it. You know, so.
I do want to say something about video games and music. Essentially, what all of us are doing up here is something that was, you know, really important to us in our like formative years. Something we grew up with, something that's very influential to us. You know, now as we're expressing ourselves as artists, you know, the things that we grew up with are coming out. Those are our influences, and that's kind of how these things are coming together. You know, like, I've probably heard, you know, the main theme from Dragon Warrior as much as I've heard my favorite song because it looped 40,000 times as I was playing.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know. These sorts of things, they start to come out. They, you know, it's what's, you know, inside of us. You know, our parents' generation might have this crazy toy train set in their basement where they built like an empire of toy trains. I've seen really sick stuff, but it's no more sick than me, coming up with an entire album, of influence of stuff that I make on a Game Boy, which is totally this awful, laborious way to make music. But it's us expressing, the things that were influential to us and important to us in our lives, and that's where those influences come from, I think.
You guys have mentioned the passion in doing live shows and stuff like that. What do you find most challenging and most rewarding about doing the live shows?
Well, I feel like I've been talking a lot, so why don't you guys handle that one?
Well, shockingly enough, that was my first live show ever.
What?
Anywhere.
Wow.
Just,
What?
yeah.
He's a studio guy.
Do behind the things I don't do that. And this is my first convention ever, so. Yeah.
Holy crap.
So what was the most challenging about your first?
Challenging was getting on that stage and not tripping over the cable.
That's true. A lot of people had that problem.
The basic, for me, the real nervous part was having the music cut silent at any moment and having awkward silence. Because then it's just like, yeah. Fortunately, that never happened, so that was great. And the real rewarding thing was having people clap during the songs, getting people into it. A couple of people were dancing, so it was amazing to have people like really interact with my music and stuff. I really loved it.
Nice.
I will say when you do some stuff that we do that might be a little bit out there compared to, radio rock or something like that. Like even my video game cover bands, it's instrumental music, but it's old covers and stuff like that, or making music on a Game Boy. Occasionally, when you go to play for a regular rock crowd, because if I can go play to video game fans, great, but they're not going to be there at every single show, and I want to reach an audience beyond that. Sometimes people will not get it, or they'll just be weirded out by it. And I've had shows where my playing was incredible, but it just did not stick. And that's going to happen. And other times, you'll have maybe a couple people come up to you after the show and they'll be like, "You blew my mind," but it was only 3 people. And there's a bit of a mob mentality thing at shows. And if somebody could be absolutely loving your show, but if nobody's doing anything, they're seriously just going to stand there like this, this guy's amazing, but I'm totally not going to do anything. And so if the crowd doesn't know how to react to you, sometimes it just seems like nobody gives a shit about what you're doing. It's scary, and you're putting yourself out there, and sometimes it will fail, and that is the hardest part. Is sometimes you'll get into situations where you will not succeed as a musician, and it will, I don't know. It's kind of a brutal world out there, especially we do nerd-based music, but when you get outside that nerd community, it can be scary.
So this kind of does up what you were saying. How would you be able to make this type of music more mainstream as, say, something as dubstep? What is stopping it from becoming?
That's a really good question, and I've told a bunch of people that I think, particularly chiptune stuff, now that the production value is way higher, people are getting way better programming, and I can literally make music on a Game Boy that can stand toe-to-toe with your top-notch dubstep tracks. And now it just needs something to let the general public know it exists. There's a band called Anime who's doing very, very well. They were on Carson Daly a couple months ago. They're on Lollapalooza next week or something. Yeah, they're doing really well, and they're kind of helping bring chiptune stuff in particular to the mainstream. Essentially, have any of you never heard of chiptune music before? Okay, this guy, and maybe that guy. But you guys have heard of chiptune music before? When I go play a regular show, about 95% of the people have no idea what is happening. Even after I played last night, there was a guy who was like, "So your guitar is hooked into your Game Boy, and you're using that as a pedal or something?" And I'm like, no, it's absolutely wrong. But yeah, exactly. But it's such a foreign concept that it hasn't been fully realized by the general public, so it needs a catalyst for people to be like, oh, this is a thing, you know, that I'm allowed to like. And
I'm allowed to.
yeah, I don't know, like people.
breakout
One of
band.
the coolest things about playing video game
So
music
avant-garde.
is when you do play for a regular crowd, there's tons of people who love the shit out of it but never knew it existed.
Right.
Because it still hasn't. While we have our focused view that, you know, we go to IGN and Joystick and whatever, and you might see, you know, video game culture based stuff. You know, Joe Schmo, who's, you know, checking out lamebook.com, is not going to be introduced to this stuff unless they're really heavily entrenched in the nerd culture. So there's tons of people who don't even know this exists but would love it, and you just got to break past that.
Totally.
I have a question about the video game music in general. In video game music today, more artists and developers are leaning towards more atmospheric sort of mood to their games, and more using the atmosphere and using the musical notes and musical plans, kind of like silent movies did, in that kind of fact. How do you guys feel? Like, would you rather like new video games today would go back to the more melodic, using songs and remembering humming melodies to their music, or would you rather them stay in an evolution of the atmospheric music?
Because I've done a little bit of composition, and I have friends that are video game composers. And I actually have a friend, he was composing for a Ninja Turtles DS game, and he loves all the old Ninja Turtles music for the NES, and he was like, oh my god, I get to compose for a Turtles game. And he made all this music, and it was like awesome, upbeat Ninja Turtles party time music. And the developer was like, yeah, we need you to tone that down, and it was too Mega Man. And he's like, that's like the biggest compliment you could ever give me. So, I personally, I love the old school stuff, and that's why I make video game music, and I compose on the Game Boy because it's super melodic. I love melody. I love something you can get stuck in your head. Meanwhile, they're going for the atmosphere, as you said, and I understand why they do it, but for me, as a guy who totally gets off the music, as a standalone product, I like more melody, but they're going for like this enriching, immersive experience. It's not that immersive, you know, to have the kind of Mary song playing, but I don't know. Maybe it is more immersive, actually. But I do prefer that, but that is the direction they're going in, and it's that AAA sound design that they're going for. I don't know. I feel like the melody stuff has a lot more character. It's a lot more memorable. So
I can agree with you. I feel like, while I agree though, I do like the new, you know, evolution of game music. Journey was a game that blew my mind, you know, just being able to play through it and seeing all the cool, immersive stuff. But mostly that is on a AAA level, so I do understand that. But I feel like we have so much stuff in the past, and thanks to stuff like chiptunes, we are able to kind of relive that. So I'm glad that there's a balance somewhat, you know, out here in the back end.
Yeah. What are your guys' opinions on the virtuosity of Power Glove?
I've played with those guys.
Have you?
Yeah, and they're very good.
Yeah.
My opinion is that they are very good.
Nothing but
No, they're fantastic musicians. My one band, Arm Cannon, like we're like kind of like rival bands with them because we're also a shredder video game band, and so I don't know. We talk trash, friendly trash talking with each other, and we show each other the licks, and we're like, damn, that's sick, you know. We're all about that masturbatory process of too many notes.
I like them.
Yeah.
Guitar lead.
So we know the name Megaran and where that came from. Do you other two want to talk about how you came up with your tags?
My story's interesting. I was born with it.
Really?
It is my last name, and as growing up, a lot of people, when they heard my last name, they're like, oh, Skrypnyk, and they just kept calling me that. And close friends kept skewing it up. Instead of calling me Skrypnyk, they'll call me like Scrap Screws. And it just got deteriorated from there on and on. So. But yeah,
It's an awesome name. It really is.
My name's Danimal Cannon, and what that comes from is I played in this band called Arm Cannon, and that was like my online handle in a couple places. But also, my online handle before that was Danimal something because that was what I chose when I used AOL when I was 12. And I thought that was fucking amazing.
Stuck with it forever.
So I went and I went to this one forum and somebody just referred to both of my handles because they knew both of them. And they were like, "Oh, it's Danimal Cannon," and I ended up starting to do my own independent remixes online that were not Arm Cannon material, but I would release them on a forum where my username was Arm Cannon, so I had to find a way to differentiate between what I was doing and what Arm Cannon was doing. So I just combined my handles together. What's up? Hey.
I've never heard of any of you guys. So
That's cool.
That's awesome.
I've never heard of your music, so would you mind if you shared some music?
That's awesome. Anybody got any speakers?
Shitty iPhone speakers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if everybody
In this
can
room,
play
it'll probably
something,
sound good.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, it's all time.
At the same time.
New remix, all three of them at once.
All at once, the ultimate mashup. Alright, yeah, I'll find something for you.
Play Aerith.
No, Eric, you don't have 7 minutes for that.
Yeah. We don't have to play like a whole track, but I'll just play like a little bit. This is kind of Mega Man influenced.
Okay.
This is chiptunes. Alright, that's all you're gonna get for now. Essentially, you know,
The
it's all
shareware
made on
version.
Game Boy, and it sounds bigger than iPhone speakers, but
That's the shareware version.
yeah, that is the shareware version. If you want to play the past level 1, you have to purchase the full thing. But I don't know.
It's our free trial.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm on the Black Materia page, so I'll just play this. This is Avalanche, which is the Final Fantasy, uses the fighting theme of Final Fantasy VII. You'll see where we added drums and synths and stuff and linked some things together, and I added lyrics talking about the most badass group ever, Avalanche.
Wow. I think we only have like 2 or 3 minutes left, so.
Yeah, so I'll give you about 30 seconds.
Does that mean we won't get the lyrics?
It probably won't make it to the lyrics, maybe the chorus.
We'll just fast forward.
Fast forward, really?
Yeah, you can do that and make it.
Alright. There you go. So yeah, it's the entire album just tells the story of that.
How much do we have to pay
of the
for it?
great game. Oh, how much do you have to pay for it? Good question. We'll talk about that at the end. I'm sure we have music. You have music.
I just play music.
No, I mean music to sell.
Oh, yeah. I have a
So if you're interested, we do have albums.
Yeah, I have a full-length album. It's 70 minutes of Game Boy jams.
Of awesomeness.
Yeah, there's a couple of guitar solos and other stuff in there, but there's some drums and guest solos too. But it's $10, so nice flat.
Yeah, it's all in mine are $10.
I'm glad that Canadian dollars even because we're from the States.
I know. That's a relief. Hey.
Oh,
Are you the only
sorry, is
one
there
of-
not a third musician that we could listen to?
Skrypnyk, we
love you.
Yeah, I'm just in the corner. This is a drill and bass track. It's an original. Just throw it in. God, I love these speakers.
Bass response is sick.
It's not bad. I thought it would be actually. I mean, like the sound of the
Right. Fail dance, So anyways, the music we make. It's great.
I don't have a whole lot of time, but
are you the only one that records? Do you record vocals, or is Megaran the only one here that records vocals at all?
I do. I don't sing myself because I'm bad at it.
I have another question leading.
But I have a roommate who's very good at singing, and so I play in Arm Cannon. He sings in Arm Cannon, and he's very good. So I've done plenty of vocal tracks, just not myself because I'm bad at it.
Yeah, I do.
I don't sing at all, but I do sample dialogues from random shows and movies
cool.
and subliminal messages.
Yeah, a lot of the video game music scene is kind of instrumental, but there are people appropriating vocals to it.
What I wanted to ask was, when you record your vocals, your final vocals for your albums, do you go to a proper studio, or do you have your soundproofed closet with like suits and backpacks covering the walls?
Yeah, we're very low budget, but my DJ also engineers my sessions, and he's a recording student, so he knows how to make it sound really good.
Nice.
So when I have the time and extra money, I whenever I can, I go to the big studios to record. But most of my stuff is done at home in a very modest setup. But I think you can get some really great sound these days out of a lot of pillows and nothing
Pillows,
in the bathroom.
suits, clothes, backpacks, covering a closet wall.
I've done both. I've gone to the studio. I do stuff at home exclusively now. Like I'm essentially a recording engineer, and I do a lot of soundtrack work now. And so I actually have decent gear now, and I can actually make it sound good. But I used to go to the studio for it.
Right.
Any upcoming projects?
I'm sorry, I think he had.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
As someone who's not quite into nerdcore, I kind of drift in and out at times. What's the best way do you find to find new artists, like someone you may not have heard of before? Is there?
I don't know. I go with my friends. I go with my friends' recommendations.
Okay.
You know, so people I like, if they recommend someone to me, then I can trust that. If MC Frontalot's talking about somebody new, then I listen to it.
And that's where a lot of what I found this comes from, but I'm just wondering how to get maybe a little more in depth. But
there is a Nerdcore forum on Nerdcore now.
Okay.
You can hear some stuff there. Some of it's good. But yeah, you gotta sift through a lot of stuff. But I can give you a couple names off the top of my head that I really like. Python is amazing.
Oh yeah, I know.
Dale Chase is also amazing. Dual Core, awesome. Adam Warrock, Mr. Wilson, and
really?
and Richie Branson.
Okay.
Those are like some of my favorites right now.
Thank you.
Was there? Oh, sir, you had a question. You in the front here, sir? Texting?
Oh, yeah, sorry. No, I wasn't texting, I was just writing down the names of the bands.
Okay.
Do you guys have any upcoming projects you'd like to talk about?
I do. You guys?
Yeah, I got some stuff.
Well, my album's coming out at the end of August. It's volume 2 of my language arts series. It's going to be a 3-part story, comic book, video game thing. And I'll show you the video game. But part 2 is coming out August 22nd as soon as I'm off tour. It'll be great. It's almost done. It's a 9-track EP. Kyle Hebert does the introduction and outro.
Nice.
And Bear McCreary of Walking Dead is helping me with a lot of the scoring and stuff. So it's going to be really, really cool. So check that out.
I'm recording a 3rd Arm Cannon album. Should be out at the end of the year. I'm working on a new chiptune record with this guy Zeph. We're doing a collaborative effort. He's a really talented Game Boy programmer. I handpicked him, and I was like, I want you because you're amazing. And that should be done in the fall. And then also, I have 3 or 4 video game soundtracks coming out for the iOS that should be out sometime. I don't know, developers, I don't know what they're doing. They have my tracks.
Cool. Okay.
So that's in limbo until they release those. But
Cool, thank you.
I got, I'm working on 2 original albums at the moment. I'm hoping that one will be released at the end of this year, the other one to be announced whenever. And then there's a couple of other remixes tracks that are supposed to be out sometime this year as well.
Yeah, what is your preferred programming software that you guys like to use? I don't know if you said it already, but I didn't.
For chiptune stuff, I like to use LSDJ. It's called Little Sound DJ. It's a homebrew software for the Game Boy that lets you compose right on the Game Boy. However, if you're talking like recording software, I really like this one called Reaper. It's super stable DAW, and it's really easy to use and ultra customizable, and it's cheap.
I use a combination of a bunch of stuff. I use Reason, Acid, Cubase. When I'm using hardware, I like to use the MPC 1000. And I just opened GarageBand when I bought a Mac, and I'm in love. It's so easy. No, but Ableton is what I need to get into. I've heard a lot of good things about Ableton.
I started with Fruity Loops. I moved into FL Studios. Been using it ever since.
Yeah.
Bunch of VSDs and things like that.
I've used a lot of FL Studio. It's a good program.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
Almost everyone I know is
using
it and making some great stuff out of it. All right, last like 2 questions. 1 maybe. Nothing else? All right, if there's nothing else, we're going to adjourn. But if you're interested, we do have all of our music here. If you'd like to get some CDs and stuff, I will be leaving for the States in another hour, so I don't know if I'll be back to ever see you again. No. Hopefully we're back for next ConBravo. But thank you so much for having us. We definitely appreciate it. So we are signing off.